The time is now 9:09 a.m. We'll go ahead and get started with the North Carolina Textbook Commission meeting for July 29th, 2021. We will begin with the reading of the ethics statement. Commission members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this commission. Does any member of the commission know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. Do we have anyone at this time? If not, we will proceed. I'd like to formally welcome everyone to today's meeting. We will now have the approval of our minutes. We hope everyone has had an opportunity to read our minutes. We'd like to have them approved at this time. I'll take a motion.
This is Commissioner Linker. I make a motion that we accept. Are we doing the minutes all both together?
Let's do them all together if we could.
I'm making a motion to approve both sets of minutes as presented.
Thank you. May I get a second, please?
Commissioner Seiss, I second that motion.
Thank you. The minutes have been moved and properly seconded at this time. All in favor? Any discussion? Any discussion? I'll take that first. If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. You can't formally say aye. Any aye or any nay.
Dr. Fair can do a roll call where she goes through and calls our names and then we say yes or no.
Fantastic. That's good. We'll do it individually.
It takes a little time, but that's probably with us not being face to face is easier.
That is, Dr. Fair, we'll turn it over to you for that.
Okay, Commissioner Laura Austin.
Commissioner Austin, present, and I say aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Jody Ray Autry. Commissioner Catherine Bailey. Commissioner Ricky Baldwin. Commissioner Marlena Blue. Commissioner Megan Kennedy. Commissioner William Cheshire. Commissioner Edward Coggins.
Commissioner Coggins, aye.
Commissioner Missy Ellenberger.
Commissioner Ellenberger, aye.
Commissioner Shannon Everhart. Commissioner Aubrey Gadet.
Commissioner Gadet, present, and aye.
Commissioner Don Hester.
Commissioner Hester, present, and aye.
Commissioner Hannah Jimenez.
Commissioner Jimenez, present, and aye.
Commissioner Kathleen Linker.
Commissioner Kathleen Linker, aye.
Commissioner Mallory Mbalia.
Commissioner Mbalia, aye.
Commissioner Elisa McLean.
Commissioner McLean, aye, and present.
Commissioner Susan Mills.
Commissioner Mills, present, and aye.
Commissioner Rob Oral. Commissioner Michelle Perry. Commissioner Alicia Ray.
Commissioner Ray, present, and I.
Commissioner Lindsay Sice.
Commissioner Sice, present, and I.
Wonderful.
Okay.
So
You have everyone, you have 12 people who are approving the minutes.
excellent. Thank you. You all have been faithful in showing up this morning. We really appreciate it. And that takes care of our roll call as well. We're going to move swiftly to our obligations and responsibilities. And it seems for this group, you may not be the ones who actually need this piece, but we do want to review this component because it is critical to the work of this commission. We wanted to just remind everyone of a few points that are going to be extremely important as we move forward before making the final step of our report later in the year. I'm going to ask Dr. Fair to begin, and we're going to sort of tag team this component because we don't want to have any missteps as we proceed in this process. We have new and returning members. So for our returning members, please forgive us. We know you probably could do this just like breathing air. But for some of our newer members, we are acclimating them to this process, and we ask for everyone's patience as we go through and just try to make sure everyone is on the same page. I'm going to begin, though, by just reminding everyone this is an appointment by the governor's office. And so the seriousness with which we want to proceed should prevail at all times. It is an appointment and a very serious one that requires our attention. So we need a minimum of 12 people at all times when we convene. So if for any reason you're not able to make any of the meetings or any of the times we're to come together, please reach out to Dr. Fair, Commissioner Linker, or myself, so that one of us knows, and that would allow us to make certain someone else is there, or maybe we need to select another date. We don't like harassing you to say, oh, let's pick another date. But part of that is because we're trying to find a date we get the most people there as possible. We had a little difficulty with that this last go around, but we didn't think it was right to have people come and we not meet quorum. So we thank you so very much for your patience in helping us find those October dates. But we want to be able to meet when we're going to have quorum. So we're grateful for the 12 of you this morning. Dr. Fair, is there anything I've missed with the appointment by the governor and the quorum component you'd like to add at this time?
I would just say that that I'm in agreement is that this is an appointment, and so it is an honor to be a part of the Textbook Commission. And the governor and the governor's office, they really rely on you all to be present at the meetings, to be actively involved, and just to participate in all things that are sponsored by you all as a Textbook Commission, so that you can assure that you have quality meetings, and also that the information that's coming out is representative of what you all as members are all agreeing upon and considering. And so I would just stress that is that, it's really a dependency on you all to carry out the work that you've been entrusted with as a textbook commissioner, and with taking the oath of office and all of those things that you go through in the beginning to get onboarded to the commission. You can tell just from that aspect that it is truly an honor and a privilege to be selected for appointment to be on the Textbook Commission.
We will also add that if there are any questions concerning attendance expectations, Dr. Fair and Commissioner Linker have the operations manual provided to each of us. They did that early on in the process, and we ask you to refer to the operations manual. The guidelines are there. This is in statute. It's critically important if you have questions that you don't hesitate to ask, but if you need an immediate response or just want to see what is in writing, please refer to the operations manual. Anything else there, Dr. Fair?
I would just add that in the operations manual, you do have an outline of the rules of procedure which govern basically how you all conduct business or how you conduct yourself as commissioners, including the standards of conduct. That would also be there, and that comes from board policy. So I would encourage that if you had not had the opportunity yet to go through the operations manual, that will be the place where you will get the most information about expectations as a commissioner and how you are to conduct yourself. It gets to some things that the legal counsel presented during her ethics training back during evaluation week. So if you weren't there, that's also available in some of your meeting folders. You'll find the operations manual in the July meeting folder. It was originally in the February meeting folder, but I placed it in the July folder this morning just so that you all could have easy access. And again, one of the highlights in the operations manual is that a quorum is required for the textbook commission to conduct any business. So in this case, if there are not 12 members, if there's 11, if there's 8, you all are not going to be able to meet to conduct any business, and you would have to at that point cancel your meeting and then try to reschedule. So as Commissioner McLean has indicated, it's very important that whenever information is going out and you're asked to indicate whether or not you're going to be able to attend, that if something comes up after you've indicated that you can attend, please just let us know so that we can be sure that there's still going to be enough people in attendance to have quorum. What you'll find with the beginning of a new cycle, whenever that starts, you will receive information about all the meetings. There's a minimum of 4 meetings. You'll receive all the information about the meetings, to include the dates as well as what type of meeting it is. So you're asked that when you receive that information, that you note then if at that time you have any discrepancies that would cause you not to be able to attend the meeting, so that before we put it out and it becomes the schedule, we could possibly go back in and find better dates. So that'll come really before the invitation goes out. We'll start looking at dates and trying to consider what dates are the best for the majority of the people. And then from that point, we ask that you save those dates on your calendar, and unless an emergency comes up, to plan to be in attendance on those dates. It's not very easy to reschedule because there's so many of you. There's a membership of 23, and because there's so many of you on the commission, it's really hard to try to reschedule once the school year starts or once the months start to go by. So it's much easier if at the beginning you see that you're not able to be in attendance, that you let us know, and then we'll work through making sure that we have dates where there can be a quorum established. And then, of course, knowing that once those meetings are established, that your attendance is extremely important. And that's going to lead us into speaking a little bit more about attendance. Dr. McLean, do you want to start with the attendance, or would you like for me to continue?
Go right ahead, dear.
Okay, so you also have in your folder an executive order that outlines attendance. This executive order comes from the governor's office, and it basically details all the information about what's the expectation for you in terms of attendance and meetings and all of those things. So I'm just highlighting here on this slide just a few key points. And the first being that you're expected to maintain a high ethical and board attendance standards. And those, again, are in your operations manual, as well as in some of the policies and things that have been shared with you. In the governor's information in the executive order, it does indicate that if you have excessive absences, that does diminish the effectiveness of the board. And, we can go back and reflect from the summer, whenever there's not a quorum or whenever people are having to be out on a regular basis, there's important meetings important meeting information and details that you would be missing, or you may miss the opportunity if there's something going on like working with the teachers, it would be really helpful to have as many people there as possible so that the teachers can get the assistance that they need. So when there are absences, it does impact the work of the commission. So it's extremely important that you just attend as much as you can. Also, there is a percentage indicated in the attendance rule that the expectation is for you to attend at least 75% of all the regularly scheduled meetings. Again, you will get those meetings on a list at the beginning of the next cycle. So you'll be able to put those things on your calendar so that you can note when the meetings are, and also if you have any times when you're not able to meet, because that 75% is the marker, and they're typically a minimum of 4 meetings. And then there may be some call meetings like the one today, but for the ones that are regularly scheduled, those are the ones that the 75% rule would apply to. And so I wanted to make sure to highlight that in the event that you hadn't seen the executive order. I definitely would recommend that you go in and look at the details in that order. Commissioner McLean, do you have anything else on attendance, or would you like to move on to the next item?
Let's move right on. We'll move right on. I believe the other thing we were going to discuss was in October, when we return for deliberation, your role is to talk about bids, to make comments, to share thoughts, and to just keep the conversation going. So go ahead and begin organizing your notes, your thoughts, and your comments so that that discussion in October will just move along smoothly. What we don't want is to get to the meeting in October and there one is a delay, or that the meeting is not rich. The meeting is not full of information. We really want the reports at the end to be vibrant and to be full of information that others will find very helpful and descriptive. So they're going to talk in just a little bit about the deliberations and the reconsideration meeting. But for my 2 cents worth, as I learn right along with you, my thought is to organize what I need to say so that when I get to the meeting, I can make contributions that are meaningful. So I turn it over to you, Dr. Fair.
Okay, thank you. There are a few points on the slide that I would just emphasize, and then I'm going to ask Commissioner Linker to possibly add to this from the commissioner perspective. But the details that I can share with you is that since your meeting has been rescheduled to October 6th and 7th, then prior to the first day of the meeting, which is October the 6th, you need to be sure that you complete your reviews or evaluations in the evaluation platform. So you should be working on those now. You should be going in, looking at the materials and looking at those based on the criteria, evaluation criteria that you have for each of the CTE courses or the math courses. And that should be the work that you're performing now up through the time for you all to meet to deliberate. On that first day, which is a deliberations day, you should be prepared to vote and make recommendations. That means that you should have comments for every material, every textbook that you review. You should have comments for each criterion that you have in the platform. So if you are thinking that it meets a criterion, you should have comments. If you're thinking that it doesn't meet a criterion, you should have comments. So you should have comments for everything. The deliberations day is the time for you to be able to speak up and say what your thinking was about that particular material. If you're recommending, if you're not recommending, and then why. You may have comments that may be helpful for the publishers who will be in attendance at the meeting, and so that would be good for them. But it will also be helpful to be on the report, so as state board members and the public are looking at the reports, they will also know your thinking behind the recommendations or the non-recommendations that you're making. So when October 6th comes around, it's really important and pertinent that you have completed your reviews and that you have comments and that you're actively participating and speaking on the day of deliberations. Again, Your attendance is expected on that day, unless there is some sort of an emergency. You already have the dates on your calendar. And if you don't have quorum that day, then you would not be able to finalize this part of your work for the evaluations of the textbooks to make those recommendations to the board that they would consider for adoption. So that would definitely delay completing this process and getting materials on a list that would be available to our districts and our schools in the state. So your attendance means a lot, especially for this meeting. A quorum is required, so we have to have a minimum of 12. Please note that the 12 is minimum. The expectation is that everybody would attend, that there would be a full membership of 23 and that all 23 people would attend, barring any emergencies that would keep someone from attending. The more people, the better the conversation for deliberations, as well as the input for what is recommended and not recommended. I'll also go on to say that regardless of your attendance status for the deliberations meeting, every commissioner must submit a report by completing your reviews in the evaluation platform. So it doesn't matter if you're going to be there on the 6th and the 7th. We hope that everyone will be in attendance. But even if you're not, you must meet the deadline in submitting your evaluation. It is in legislation that commissioners are expected to complete a report. And these are reports that are for the state board because you're doing this work on behalf of the state board. So we will post reports. They will be made public. They will be made available to the state board. So that is why your comments are critical, so that those who are not evaluating and reviewing the materials will have a good idea of why you're saying what you're saying, whether it's a recommend or not recommend. Now, from the commissioner aspect, there may be other things that you need to be considering to prepare for the deliberations meeting and to actually be prepared on that first day. So I'm going to ask Commissioner Linker if she may want to add something here from her perspective as a commissioner who actually goes through the preparation.
I think you did a good job of hitting the main points to keep in mind. I will say that when we do arrive on the 6th for our deliberations, you really should have your report pretty much finished at that point. And later on, I'm going to go over and kind of show, especially for the newer members, you know, what that kind of looks like, that process, in case you didn't have an opportunity to ask questions earlier in the process. So it really needs to be finished. And then when we have that conversation for each bid number, you can, of course, make changes to based on our conversation to your report before we actually submit it. And I'm going to show you like where you would do that at versus what I call the workspace versus the final report space, which is actually just a view. That would be the most important thing, is that you come prepared. You have your strengths, your areas of concern, your overall thoughts on where you're looking at, whether you think you would recommend it at that point or whether you would not recommend it at that point. And then when we have our deliberations and through our conversations, you might find out something that you were unaware of before. You might have some clarification to something you weren't sure of before. And then you would change that reflection or add that information to your report while we're in our deliberations. But before we leave that that meeting, that deliberation reconsideration meeting, if we go into reconsiderations, it would be the second day. But before we leave that facility, after the meeting concludes, then we would submit that report. So there won't be any time to work on it afterwards. So you need to come by 8 o'clock on October 6th. You need to have your report pretty much in the platform and ready to go, just knowing that you will be able to edit and make changes as our conversations progress over the day. I think that's the main thing. And the other thing, when we do get to the actual deliberations and reconsiderations meeting, is, like Dr. Fair has mentioned already, that we need to be actively involved, which means at some point every commission member needs to be on the record with a comment in the discussion or the conversation. Everyone doesn't have to talk about everything, or it would take us a week to do the deliberations versus a day. But at some point, you should weigh in on submission bid comments and participate in the conversation. And again, I can't stress the importance of quorum and why we would love to have everyone there to be able to participate and have that conversation. Again, regardless if you are not able to participate, your report still must be completed. And to be honest, your report really should be submitted on October 6th. If you're not there to participate in the conversation, then you really wouldn't be making any changes in your report from 8 o'clock on October 6th. That would be your final report. You also would not be able to have a voice in the voting if you do not attend the deliberations meeting. You wouldn't be able to vote on your recommendation, but you would still have your report that would show your reflections, your thoughts, and how you were thinking about those materials in your evaluation of them.
Okay.
Any other commission member, returning commission member that would like to add to that? Anything that I left out that you found to be helpful? I will say the pace is kind of quick. And so the navigation of pulling things up, you just need to make sure you have everything up and you know how to go in the menu from one bid to the other bid. So Dr. Fair, I don't see that anybody, from my view, I can't really see everyone. I don't think that anyone wanted to say anything else. So that would be all that I have at this time. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the actual report, I think, next, if I remember correctly.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no questions, then you're right, Commissioner Linker. We're going to move right to the report update. That will conclude obligations and responsibilities. I'd like to thank you for the information there, and we'll move to Commissioner Kathleen Linker.
Give me 1 minute. We're switching who's showing stuff.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, I think you should be able to see my presentation.
We can.
I'm going to leave it where you can see the presenter view so that if I need to go back to another slide, it's easier. Can you see the main slide well enough, or do I need to go to present view?
We can't read the slide.
Hold on. Can you see it now?
It's a little better. But
in the presentation mode, they've made some changes with WebEx in the last week, and I really can't, when I'm in presentation, I can't make it bigger. It's taking up my whole screen, so I can't manipulate the size. But if I just show my desktop, it's really not as clear. And I'm going to have Dr. Fair drop this in our folder. I'll drop it in our folder. Basically, the first slide you're looking at now, it's where we go to do our report. So in your folder, you do have the report that we had in our last evaluation cycle in 2019 that you can look at for your review. You'll see an actual final report and what it will actually look like. That is the exact report that is turned into the board for their board materials that they look at and refer to as they make their decision to approve or our recommendation or not approve our recommendations. So this is the page where we log in, and I just wanted to give you a quick little where it says notes and comments final. This tab right here, that takes you to where what I call your workspace. That's where you're typing in your strengths, your areas of concern, your overall comments, and just some pointers. When you click on here, then you click the bid submission number. I'm sure you're to this point, you kind of already know what that looks like. For each bid submission, you will write your comments in the appropriate boxes, providing the rationale for either recommending or not recommending the bid submission to the State Board of Education. You should have a comment in each box. It can be narrative or it can be bulleted points. That's the style is up to you. There is a built-in grammar check, spell check, so you don't have to worry about coming out and pasting into it. You can do your work within that platform within those boxes if that works with your writing style. You can make changes as needed within the notes and final report documents. It does let, even after you submit it in the notes and comments for final report, if you submit those individual things, it will let you make changes. That's not the case in the final report. So both during your review and based on the conversations with the other commissioners during the deliberations and reconsiderations meeting, you will be able to click into your notes for comments and final report and actually edit or rephrase within that at that time. Each time that you submit, you will notice that if you looked at the final report tab, that it updates on that. So you have to submit it before I think it'll show up on the actual final report tab. And then this space is, again, remember this space is fluid. So until you sign and submit our final report, which is under the final report tab, you will be able to make changes and edit as you need to. But after we submit the final report, you will not have access to or be able to edit your notes and comments from that point, and that will be at the end of the meeting when we meet in October. And then the last button that says final report, that's like a view only sort of thing. You click on it and it gives you a list of all the bids, and you'll see your comments that you had typed in the notes and comments will show up in that final report. And then that is what is downloaded and presented to the board and then put up for public view. This is where you can't make changes in this link. So if you click on the final report and you have it pulled up and it's a view only, you can't type in those boxes. So you would need to go back to the notes and comments to make changes. I think we've said that already. And this is where you will go after our meeting to sign and officially submit the report. And then again, once we click submit from within the final report, you won't be able to access the platform at all. It'll log us out of the platform and we won't be able to log in. You won't be able to make changes. So, I don't think that you'd be able to submit the final report before October 6th, but just don't do it, because if you do it before we're finished with our meeting, it cannot be sent back to you. Once it's submitted, it's gone. It's in its final phase, and we wouldn't be able to go back in and you wouldn't be able to make any changes. So that's just the overview. When you click the final report, and when you click notes and comments, this is what pops up, and I've blocked that a lot, and I made a sample. So my sample is ABC 1234, and the title of the text is ABC for CTE, and you would just click this link right here. It says comments, notes for final report. When you click that, it opens up this without all the colors. And you'll see the bid number again at the top. You're going to want to make sure that your bid number matches the bid that you're on, especially if you have multiple tabs open with multiple things coming in and out. And then you'll see the title of the text, or the submission, I should say. And you'll see that you have a box for strengths, a box for areas of concern, and then a box for overall comments. And so you're typing in that box. So if you have strengths, you're typing in the box that I've got highlighted green, or either bulleted or narrative form, and then any areas of concerns, and then your overall comments. And in overall comments, I generally put like my overall comments for like overall as a whole, where the standards were met. But I might, in my strengths, highlight a specific standard that was strong, and my area of concerns, I would highlight definitely any standards that were missing or weak, as in they were there, but maybe not to a lot of depth. So, and then your overall concerns, you could also make comments overall about the how it met the pedagogy of philosophy of the state and that sort of thing. And so what you type in the box that's green, it would be strengths. The yellow box would be areas of concern, things that that you would like to see improved or added. Think of it as constructive criticism. I know publishers do appreciate having that information, and they take notes when we deliberate so that they have that for their records as well, and then the overall comments. And so once you do that, down here at the bottom, it says save and finish later. So the platform will time out at 120 minutes. So if you have it pulled up and you walk away from the computer, you need to save and finish, because if it logs out, it'll be gone. So I would save and finish regularly. Remember, you can go in and add it. If you submit in this place in the notes and comments, when you submit, it just pushes it into the final report boxes. It still lets you edit. So you don't have to just save and finish later. You can do either. If you hit submit, it'll go back out and you'll have to come back in the link again to get to the boxes. If you save and finish later, it should stay right at this screen, if I remember correctly. And then, so this is what looks at the final report. So I tried to color code it for you right over here in the right hand side. So again, you'll see the bid number, but this will have all the bids in one place. So when you click on the final report, it'll look like this. Right now it's blank because I blanked out where I had things. But the notes and comments box does expand. It will be larger than what you see right here. You see the bid number on the left. Again, you're going to want to go across. You'll see the textbook information like the title. The original default is no on the was there a reconsideration vote, and that's because we're not to that point yet. After we deliberate, if the publisher asks for reconsideration, then that would be changed to yes. And then any notes that we would take in the reconsideration would show up in that box, and that's something that happens at the reconsideration part, so you don't have to worry about that now. And then if you notice where it says strengths, the green, whatever you type in that big green box. Oh, hold on. Right here, whatever you type in this big green box there, those words show up right here. And whatever you type in the big yellow box here shows up right here. Whatever you type in the red box there shows up right there exactly. So this is just like a view of, all compiled on one long form of all the individual submissions that you would have filled in your when you did your notes. So that's kind of the overview for that. Are there any questions? Dr. Fair, I'm trying to switch off so we can share the main frames. If you see any questions, if you can tell me. I can't see that at this point.
Let's see, right now I don't see any questions. Double check. Yeah, I don't see any questions in the chat or the questions pane.
Okay. So we can go back to the original. There we go. I think everyone, I've stopped sharing, so you should be back on the slides for the meeting that should say the report update. Okay, so that was a lot of information. A lot of it you're probably already aware of. I just basically wanted to have an opportunity, especially for the newer members, to have you had any questions or you weren't sure, the opportunity to ask questions. Because after this meeting, we will not see each other again until we meet in October face to face. So that is the information for the report, the how-tos, the whats. Again, it doesn't have to be a lot of information, but you do need to have at least a comment in each box. We don't want blank white spots in the final report. In my opinion, your eye really is drawn to where there's white spaces, where there's nothing written, if you're looking at the overall report when it's in its final product. And again, you will see in the folder the 2019, well, it was 2019, and there was a 2016, Dr. Fair. There is a final report in there, and so you'll see the commission member's name. It is in alphabetical order by the commissioners at the time, and you'll see the each commissioner's report. That's why it's 400 pages long. 23 people with all the reports added together in one big document. So that gets us to next steps. And Dr. McLean, do you want me to talk about this, or do you want to tag team on this?
Sure, go ahead. No. Take us right on through,
Okay.
please.
So next steps, you're going to, between now and October 6th, you're going to complete your reviews and evaluations in the platform. You're going to prepare for your deliberations, for the deliberation on October 6th and 7th. That just means coming with your, your thoughts and your report so that you can have that conversation, and we can then vote on whether individually whether we recommend or not recommend. And so how that process looks is the first day and into the second day, we'll have roughly 3 to 5 minutes for each submission number, which doesn't sound like a lot. And sometimes it's right at that, and sometimes it's not quite that long, but roughly that's about how long we have to talk about and vote, and then pull up our stuff for the next submission number that we then review. The format for the talk will be just the order of the boxes. So we will talk about the strengths, then we will talk about any weaknesses, and then we will talk about, our overall recommendations, and then we will vote. We vote through the platform, yes or no. The majority rule. So if over half say yes, then it would be on the recommended list. If over half say no, at that point, the publishers have an option to ask for what's called a reconsideration, which is the second part on the day 2, which is October 7th. And so the publisher would come and say, I have, you didn't find some information I would like to share with you to show you where it's at. They make a presentation. The publisher would make a presentation to the commission members. At the end of their presentation, then again, we have a little conversation about it. Were we sufficiently, did we have the information that we needed to change our mind, or based on the information we weren't, you're not going to change your mind, then we re-vote. And then that would be the final vote. So if it's the majority is yes on the reconsideration vote, then it would be placed on the list to recommend. If the majority is no on the reconsideration vote, it would be not recommended to the board to be placed on an adopted textbook list. And at the conclusion of that meeting, that's when we will sign and submit our report. And then in the next board meeting, when it would be presented, which I believe is possibly the December meeting, their December meeting, Dr. McLean will present the list to the Board of State Board of Education at that, and then they will either approve, or they'll either vote on accepting or not accepting our recommendations. And so that's kind of the end of the process, and that will be the end of this cycle. And then we will get ready for the next cycle.
All right.
So,
Dr. Fair, would you like to add anything to this as well?
No, those were my points. So I'm good. She has mentioned everything that I would say about the next steps. You all will get some updated information that will include the dates so that you can actually see the dates in a list style. So it make it easier for you to be sure to add things to your calendar. Dr. McLean will be the person representing the commission who presents to the state board, and that's tentatively at their December meeting. Any of you are welcome to attend. Those meetings are live streamed, so if you want to listen in, you can do either of those, but she will do the actual presentation on that day to represent you all as the commission. And that's pretty much all I would say in reference to the next steps.
All right. We thank both of you. Dr. Fair and Commissioner Linker have done an excellent job trying to keep all of us together. We certainly appreciate all of their work, and we will all adhere to the obligations and responsibilities moving forward. Well, we did not want a long meeting this morning, but we did think it was certainly worth a touch base type meeting to ensure we proceeded properly going forward. At this time, we're going to go ahead and take a motion to adjourn unless there are some questions from the floor. We'll open up for that and do our best to provide some answers. Any questions?
I forgot to add something, and I think it'll be clear when we meet on the 6th, we'll go over the review, but how the order that we debrief is we will debrief by publisher, not by area. So it will be an alphabetical list, the first one publisher that shows up in both combined CTE and math, because some publishers are in both. And it will just be and start in the very first alphabetical order and then numerical order within that. And we'll just go through each submission number for a publisher. Then we'll take a slight break, so to go to like a 2-minute breather to go to the next one and go through that order. So that's the order, and that's why the forms are in that order in our views for our platform.
Okay. Good news. Thank you so very much. Are there any questions? Ladies, do you see anything in the chat?
I do not see anything in the chat or the questions pane.
Okay. In that case, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
This is Commissioner Mills. I make a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you.
That, and I second that.
Thank you both. We have a motion and a second. Dr. Fair, will you do our roll call count, please?
Yes, Commissioner Laura Austin,
Aye.
Commissioner, let me skip down, Edward Coggins,
Commissioner Coggins, aye.
Commissioner Missy Ellenberger,
Aye.
Commissioner Aubrey Gadet, Commissioner Aubrey Gadet.
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Dawn Hester,
Commissioner Hester.
Commissioner Hester, I heard you pop in, but I didn't hear what you said.
Commissioner Hester, aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Jimenez,
Commissioner Jimenez, aye.
Commissioner Kathleen Linker,
Commissioner Linker, aye.
Commissioner Mallory Mbalia,
Commissioner Mbalia, aye.
Commissioner Alicia McLean,
Commissioner McLean, aye.
Commissioner Susan Mills,
Commissioner Mills, aye.
Commissioner Alicia Ray,
Commissioner Ray, aye.
and Commissioner Lindsay Sice.
Commissioner Sice, aye.
Okay, so all in attendance have agreed to the adjournment.
Thank you so very much, everyone. Have a great day. Goodbye.